I'm not defensive about it.
Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. First things first, guys, make sure you smash the like, subscribe if you're new around here, and as always, leave your thoughts in the comments. And it's international break. Obviously, it's been a little bit quiet in regards to Chelsea news, but Chelsea being the club that it is can never be too far away from the headlines. And on Friday night, we had big breaking news in regards to the Chelsea ownership, first broken by business publication Bloomberg, that Chelsea's main shareholders are exploring their ownership of the club after only just over 2 years in charge, amid what they describe as a deterioration in relationships between Todd Boehly and Behdad Eghbali. Now, all we ask for is one normal day. Just one normal day at Chelsea. Is that too much to ask? Now, this shouldn't come as a major surprise, I don't think. Obviously, a surprise in terms of perhaps not expecting something this soon, but I don't think it should be a surprise that there's been a deterioration in relationships between Boehly and Eghbali. I think that's kind of quite common knowledge. Boehly has very much taken a back seat in regards to the footballing side of operations for well over a year now. Obviously, he was the interim sporting director for that first window in charge. We all know how that went, but he's very much taken a back seat. It's now, Feliciano and Behdad Eghbali who are very much the driving forces behind the footballing decisions at the club. Obviously, because of the way the ownership's structured, the decisions, major ones, still need to be signed off by everyone. So that includes Boehly signing off on major decisions as well. But look, this is not great for the club. It really isn't great for the club, because just when you want stability on the pitch, you also want stability off the pitch. And now seemingly we're in a situation where one party is going to be trying to buy the other one out. Now, for me personally, I would prefer Todd Boehly to have sole ownership of the football club. He's the one with the sporting background with the Dodgers and all that sort of thing. But ultimately, I think the reality here is that it's going to be Clearlake and Behdad Eghbali who would potentially be buying out Todd Boehly. Clearlake Capital, I think, own over 60% of Chelsea. I think it's 62% that they own of the shares. And then the remaining 38% is owned by Boehly, a guy called Mark Walter, and then the old Swiss bloke, Hans-Jörg Weiss. And other reports are saying that Eghbali and Clearlake have got no intentions of selling any of their shares under any circumstances whatsoever. They're not in talks to do it. They're not under any pressure to do it. But they add, if other investors want to sell their shares, then Clearlake are obviously open to buying those if that happens. Now, Boehly, was certainly right at the start of the ownership. He was very much a regular at Stamford Bridge. He was at the game for the opening game of the season against Man City, but his presence at Stamford Bridge has been a lot less in more recent times. I mean, Eghbali himself is there most games. I see him arriving at the ground on a weekly basis, pretty much at Stamford Bridge. I mean, away games, I think he goes to a fair few as well. And it's safe to say that things haven't quite been the same. I think that Boehly has probably not agreed with a number of decisions that have been made at the football club. I personally feel he probably would have kept Pochettino, maybe. He probably would have kept Conor Gallagher and Trevor Chalobah if it was solely down to his decision. But the worry for me is that if this does go through, and by the way, there's no imminent suggestions that this is going to go through, and I don't want people getting confused. This is not a sale of the club. Chelsea, this ownership cannot sell the club for 10 years. This is very much looking at buying out existing shareholders potentially. And I think that person would very much be Todd Boehly, who would be potentially vacating the Chelsea project. Now, the issue with all this is that you want a situation where the ownership shouldn't be in the headlines. That's not what you want. The ownership should not be in the headlines. But that's where they seem to constantly find themselves. It's so infuriating because owners are just going to be in the background going about doing their thing. not in the headlines every single week. And this ownership seems to be in the headlines for one reason or another every single week. How difficult is it to just run the club and not do anything that might cause a bit of unrest just for one season? Just one season, guys. Surely it can't. Surely that's not asking much. Surely that's not asking too much. But look, ultimately, whether it's Boehly, whether it's Clearlake, Eghbali, Feliciano, whoever it is, the only way that the revenues are going to grow at the club, the only way the clubs are going to become profitable and get back to the top of the table is by winning. That's how it's going to be profitable. The only peace of mind is that the constant sort of mid-table, like sort of sixth place finishes and whatnot. That's not going to help. That doesn't help anyone. So look, for me, we need one person in charge taking us forward. We need a clear identity, a clear direction. Everyone needs to be pulling in the same direction. Now, obviously, I know it's very difficult to have just one individual owning a whole football club. The wealth required is absolutely vast, and you are going to have the majority of club ownerships are going to be consortium-based. Of course they are. But what you need is everyone pulling in the same direction. And if one member of that consortium, whether that's Todd Boehly in this instance, is not on board with the direction that the club's going in, then whether we agree or disagree with it, if that person can be bought out, they need to be bought out for the better of the club. Now, in the short term, if Boehly is bought out, that's unlikely to have any major impact on implications. But certainly the long term, Chelsea would be predominantly owned by a private equity firm. I don't know what implications that might have in the long run of the situation. Obviously, of course, I prefer someone with a bit of a sporting background to own the football club rather than someone with no background in sports whatsoever. But I don't see there being any point in picking sides, Boehly, Eghbali, because look, let's be honest, guys, we're fans. We don't know the full picture. But as I said, it is much better to have one person with a clear idea rather than people with two differing ideas, no matter what the idea might actually be in the first place. Now, people also need to realize that you cannot base your opinion of Todd Boehly purely off that 2022 summer window. It's disingenuous. He was learning on the job. A lot of mistakes were made, but that doesn't define Todd Boehly as an owner, and it doesn't define him as an individual, as part of the Chelsea board. And you can't just make out that would be his idea for the football club, because he is also very much bought into the model of recruiting younger players. And, multiple reports are saying that Clearlake aren't interested in selling any of their shares. So the most obvious one here is going to be Todd Boehly, who looks like he will be exiting Chelsea Football Club if that's what it comes down to. I don't see Hans-Jules Weiss or the other guy really being that fussed about selling their shares. I don't actually know what they do. They seem very happy to just be shareholders in the club and kind of do whatever it is that they do. But yeah, long term, being owned predominantly by a private equity firm, I think would have a significant altering of like the direction that the football club potentially goes in. I don't think that this is like, a major problem. It is a problem in the sense, though, that how are we supposed to trust an ownership when the ownership can't even trust each other? That in itself is a major problem. How can we trust an ownership that don't even trust each other? Relationships are really strained at the moment between supporters and ownership. And this is not exactly going to fill the supporters with any confidence that these owners know what they're doing or that they can take the club back to where they want to be, because they can't even trust each other. They can't even get along with each other. Now, of course, sources are saying that, Boehly and Eghbali relationship remains professional and they're fully committed to the club and this and that. But how much longer can this continue for now that it's public knowledge, even if we kind of had an inkling anyway, that these guys don't see eye to eye and their relationship has very much deteriorated over the past few months. I mean, having two owners who don't like each other is just a complete and utter shambles. And it seems that Chelsea could be the only football club to find themselves in this position where the owners don't get on and the ownership actively don't really like each other. Well, certainly two of the main guys. It's just classic Chelsea, isn't it? I don't really know what to say, but it doesn't fill you with any confidence whatsoever that the club is in a good place going forwards. Now, Sky Sports reporting that that Clearlake feel after the significant period of upheaval that they feel that the structure and the squad is in place to take Chelsea back to the top of the Premier League. Now, it's all very well saying that. It's all very well saying, "Oh, we've got this structure, we've got this squad." Okay, it's all very well saying, we think we got everything in place to get back to the top. But how are you going to get back to the top? Are you going to give this manager the time? What kind of players are you going to buy moving forwards? All these questions need answers, and we simply don't have them. But what we do have is a team that's struggling on the pitch, and we've got an ownership off the pitch that are constantly in the headlines and don't even trust each other and can't get on with one another. So whilst, a selling of shares is not imminent or anything like that, it's been made very, very clear that Clearlake and Eghbali are not interested in selling any of their shares. And if it's possible, it would very much be Todd Boehly being brought out, his shares being purchased by Clearlake. So I think this is something that could well happen. I think it's something that's been sort of simmering away in the background for a while, but when it hits the public domain, it does sort of take you by surprise a little bit. And if this is allowed, then I would expect this at some point to go through. I don't want to say Boehly's disillusioned with the Chelsea project, but it's clear that his way of thinking and his views clearly don't line up with what Boehly Eghbali's plans and Clearlake's plans for the football club are at the end of the day. But yeah, guys, that's just my thoughts on the Chelsea ownership turmoil, everything that's going on at the football club right now. Just one normal day at Chelsea is all we ask for, but that seems like it's too much to ask at this point in time. But that's just my thoughts. As I said, people, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think it's a big deal? Do you think it's not a big deal? What do you think this means for the football club? Smash the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you again in another one soon. Up the Chelsea and peace out.